Hello everyone and welcome to a decktech video and subsequent matches with the blue-white familiars deck. But first, allow me to introduce myself. I am Blloodpet. I'm a long-time Magic player and Pauper enthusiast, and in this channel I would like to present to you videos mostly from the Pauper format, and I will focus especially on decks that do not get the attention I feel like they deserve. And since the combo archetype is the closest to my heart, let me kick things off with this blue-white familiars video. So, the reasons why you should be playing this deck, or at least be aware of it and know how it works. Well, I'll just say it's a really fun to play deck with powerful cards, intriguing interactions, and most of all, it is totally a tier 1 quality material. The reason why it is so underplayed is the complexity of the deck as well as its time dependency. What I mean by that is, despite being a combo deck, you will rarely get a quick win, and going off is extremely click intensive. Therefore, you will time out games if you don't play fast enough. Having that said, it's still definitely worth it, and I recommend you giving it a shot. I should mention that there are different versions of this deck. It originally used to be Esper years way back when Cloud of Fairies was still legal in the format, and you would be playing both the white and the black familiar in order to speed up the combo and get the super fast win, while the current versions are a lot more grindy and the combo is just one of the ways to close out a game. You can still play Esper or Jeskai with lightning bolts and play Pyroblast in the sideboard or other versions, but what I believe is the best for the current metagame is a straight up blue-white version, which we have now in front of us, so let's get right down to it. You will notice that the cards aren't sorted by the usual sort by mana cost. Instead, I choose to separate them into piles depending on which role the card fits in the deck. Starting off with the mana base, we run 6 bounce lands, which are pretty important for the deck. Firstly, they magically increase the total land count. Second, they have a pretty neat interaction with Snap. Casting Snap then nets you 1 or 2 mana. There is not that much in the current metagame to punish you for running this many bounce lands, but if there is, stuff like land destruction or capsizes, then these tend to be the hardest matchups to beat. We run 4 of Ashbarrens, 3 Evolving Wilds to fetch for one of our 5 islands and 2 plains. You might say that this is too few untapped lands, but note that Ashbarrens can often be played as a untapped colorless source and then be bounced with our Chancery or Aqueduct to then fetch for a basic land, so this is not a real problem. Lastly, we run 1 of Mortuary Mire, which is actually a crucial part to this deck, as it rebuys whichever creature you have lost and can then be re-triggered with the bounce lands or with Ghostly Flicker. Moving on to the namesake card of the deck, Sunscape Familiar, which reduces the cost of your blue spells by 1 mana. This makes your otherwise expensive and slow deck operate much faster and smoother, and in multiples allows for several combos and infinite combos, which I will get to later. Then we have 4 Godfar's Faithful, which is a card I've grown more and more fond of, as whenever you cast a blue spell, you gain a life. And this deck can actually chain a lot of spells in a single turn, enabling you to survive the onslaught of aggro decks and allow you develop your own game plan. Then we have our blue value creatures, which are 4 Seagate Oracles to draw some cards, 4 Muldrifters to draw even more cards, and 3 Mnemonic Walls to return instants and sorceries from our graveyard. Here we have our cantrip and other card draw package, which is 4 of Preordain, best cantrip for most Pauper decks, and 2 of Brainstorm, along with 7 ways to shuffle our library. 4 of Deep Analysis, which is a little spicy, but works really nicely if you have a familiar out, and Godfar's Faithful diminishes the life loss you suffer from flashing it back. Next up we have 4 Snap and 3 Ghostly Flickers. This is where the real fun with the deck begins, as we try to abuse enter the battlefield effects. So what we are trying to do basically is things like evoke a Muldrifter with a reduced cost, snap it back before it dies from the evoke trigger, untapping to bounce lands, then evoking the Muldrifter again, casting a Ghostly Flicker on it, along with a Mnemonic Wall, getting your Ghostly Flicker back, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, you will have drawn 1,000,000 cards for very low cost, and you will have all the pieces you need to close out the game. So how do you do that? The main way is to mill your opponent with Sage's Row Denizen. Other than that, sometimes you do not need to straight up kill them in one turn. It will be enough to beat them down with Muldrifters. In order to secure that, you might need to lock them down out of combat steps with Stonehorde Dignitary. And for other decks, namely Delver, you can use Serrated Arrows and re-trigger them to get all their creatures down. But what you may be mostly wondering about is, how does the deck go infinite? Well, let me explain all the infinite interactions that go with the deck. First, we'll need 2 familiars for most of the combos. 2 familiars in play reduce the cost of your blue spells by 2 generic mana. Then we will need at least 1 Mnemonic Wall. So this is like the core for every combo. And then if we wanna mill them out, you'll need the Sage Row, obviously. And you'll need a Flicker and an Island. What you'll do is cast Ghostly Flicker on Mnemonic Wall and Island. Ghostly Flicker with 2 familiars out only costs 1 blue mana, so this is mana neutral, and each loop mills the opponent for 2 cards. Alternatively, you can do this with a snap on a Mnemonic Wall, but you'll also need at least 2 bounce lands in play. So what you do is you snap on your Mnemonic Wall, untapping 2 bounce lands. Now we have 2 blue and 2 white mana. You recast Mnemonic Wall for 2 white and 1 blue mana, getting back the snap, and you snap the Mnemonic Wall for the remaining 1 blue and repeat, again milling the opponent for 2 cards each loop. Other combo is Infinite Life combo, which you have with the God-Fear's Faithful. This works the exact same way as with Sage Road Denizen. You'll either need one Ghostly Flicker and one Island, or a Snap and 2 bounce lands along with these cards in play. Each loop giving you 1 life for each God-Fear's Faithful if you're on the Flicker plan, or 2 life if you're recasting Mnemonic Wall and snapping it back. One last semi-infinite combo is to snap all the opponent's creatures. What you do is you will need 2 Mnemonic Walls, a Snap, a Ghostly Flicker, and 2 Familiars. Or, in this case, 1 Familiar could be replaced by a Bounce Land. So what you do is snap an opponent's creature, untapping, say, 2 islands, then Ghostly Flicker on both your Mnemonic Walls, getting back the Flicker and the Snap. Snap another creature, and so on. So you can go infinite as long as they have creatures in play. And of course, if you happen to have a Faithful out or Sage Row out, you can gain a bunch of life or mill them out a bit. So these are the main combos we have in the deck. There's more to it, but this is the basis. You might say that it's a lot of combo pieces we need in order to accomplish something. And yeah, that's right. But keep in mind, we are no all-in combo deck that needs to go off as soon as possible, otherwise it can't win. We are a grindy deck with great late game, and assembling the combo is just a way to close out a match that you are already winning. Just looking at the curve, you can see that you won't be going off all that early. Theoretically, it's possible to combo off on turn 4, but it will much more likely be like turn 6, 7, 8, 15, whatever. It's very reliable and you have the tools to get to the late game and eventually finish your opponent off. Looking at the sideboard, here we have our entire Delver package, which is 3 serrated arrows, also your main tool fighting against the tribe combo deck, and 3 Aven Rift Watchers, which also happen to be excellent against Burn, Stompy and other decks. The 3 extra Stonehorn Dignitaries are your main tool fighting against a heavy creature-based decks. Once you assemble the combo of Stonehorn, Mnemonic Wall and Ghostly Flicker on those 2, they basically have no way to win. Here we have our counterspell package, 2 Hydroblast, 1 Dispel, 1 Negate. The Negate might seem like a weird one, but remember that with a Fem out, it's just a strictly superior Dispel that can also get rid of cards like Rolling Thunder, Pestilence and other pesky things. Lastly, we run 1 Reaping the Graves against other grindy decks like Boros Monarch, and 1 Hoodwink, which can steal some games just by bouncing an opponent's Karoo land early on in the game, or can free up your combo pieces from things like Journey to Nowhere or Oubliette. So, there you have the deck, and I hope you will stick with me for the matches.